Russ, you're on.
Hey, everybody, welcome once again to Nerds with Alcohol. I'm Russ.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm half asleep. No, this is episode 217. Sorry, I was preparing stuff. I wasn't looking, but welcome back to the virtual basement, guys. Virtual Nerd Basement. In a lovely Tuesday, March 2nd. It is a beautiful sunny day here. Not at the moment. It was, but
it was cold, but it was chilly. It was very sunny.
I won't go so far to say it was cold. It was chilly. It was like upper 30s. I mean, and looking at the weather report for the next 10 days to 2 weeks, I think we're kind of over the hump. It's looking like
no, we're not, dude. This is Michigan. This is false spring.
Michigan, you're right. Michigan can throw us for a loop. I was just saying, I posted on Facebook today, I may not be in Tampa like I have been for the last 7 years, but at least the weather has been clearing and we've got some sunnier days.
So
we've got some weather coming up. The highs are going to be in the low 50s, and even as I think a week from today, they're predicting 60 degrees. So
yes. So you may not remember because you've been in Florida for so many years during this time of year. Yeah. But if March comes in like this, we're going to have a huge snowstorm at the end.
No, I remember. I'm prepared for a downturn if it happens.
In like a lamb, out like a lion. In like a lion, out like a lamb. That's the way that March goes.
Right. But still, I'm hoping for some good things. I saw on the news today that Texas is completely reopened.
So is Mississippi.
They've dumped the mask mandate, and the governor is basically saying, we're done, right? The pandemic's over. Fuck it. Yeah. So
yeah, them in Mississippi, both.
Yeah, pretty dumb. Pretty dumb. So
I feel for the intelligent people down there because they're gonna get overrun by the idiots.
Yeah, like usual. Last night, or not last night, but Sunday night was the Golden Globes Awards. It was another virtual award ceremony.
I didn't watch any of that.
I didn't watch it, but I checked out the some of the winners, and I thought we could maybe just quickly go over some of those.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't heard any of that because I didn't pay any attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an award show guy.
I used to be, but I'm more about making sure that people like the actors in movies and TV shows that I appreciate get honored for what they are doing, what they should be honored for. So if anything, I basically just kind of keep an eye on the Oscars and the Golden Globes and the Emmys to see if any of the nerd-based stuff gets the proper stuff. Unfortunately, Mandalorian, which was the only thing that was really heavily nerd-based, was the only one that kind of was, well, Lovecraft Country was in there too, but The Mandalorian was nominated. I haven't started that one yet, but I hear it's amazing. The Mandalorian was nominated for Best Television Series Drama, but that was it. It didn't get any other nominations. It also did not win. But we'll go over those in a few minutes after we're done with our kind of opening. But how was your week, man?
It was all right. I figure we're probably gonna have to speed through this again because we still got WandaVision for 2 more weeks. But it was all right. We had our game Friday night, which was a blast. Went long, but it was
way long.
It was a lot of fun, and I gotta say though, it has more views on Twitch right now than almost than the last 4 things that we've put up.
Wow, that episode? That particular episode? Yeah. Wow. And that was so long. We went
6.5 hours. Yeah.
6.5 hours. That was one of the longest.
Yeah, if you count the breaks, which so it's probably about 6 hours total.
Because we have about a half an hour breaks. Well, guys, just so you know, to clarify, we got into a pretty big combat, and it was interesting because I had actually asked with the last two shows before that had been pretty much all RP, and at the end of the previous episode, I was like, "Hey, Chris, how about a little combat next time?" And kind of kidding. I love RP, so it's fine. but I also am playing a paladin that's combat oriented, and I kind of, honestly, the funny thing is he's combat oriented, but he's also really good. He's got a high charisma, so he's really good in like with intimidation, persuasion. So he's kind of good for both ends. And so anyway, I was kind of spoiling for some action, and we get into this fight. We go on up. Chris sets up a mission for us to basically go on. I would say probably some busy work for our tavern nights while we wait on other things to kind of come together.
Renee just said she blames you.
I don't blame. I blame me too. I blame me too. Yeah, CD, we do need to keep the snow shovels out for sure. So anyway, we get into a fight, and at first it's just zombies and kobolds, and we're 6th level, so zombies and kobolds really aren't, too much to sweat about at this point in our development. And we've got some pretty decent characters and 6 members in the team, and at first, and I was guilty of it myself, going, "This isn't going to be a big deal. It's kobolds and zombies." Well, I experienced Dungeons and Dragons arrogance for the first time in quite a long time, and it can happen to anybody that has been playing D&D for a long time, where you see something and go, "We got this." And we came up against something like 20 kobolds, and like half a dozen of them were these dragon shield kobolds, were much stronger, like triple the hit points and whatnot of a normal kobold, and give or take. And then also a couple magic users were thrown in there, and a big ass Goliath that hammered on us. So it was all of a sudden, and on top of it, the environment worked against us because we kept getting bottlenecked in hallways and in this cave system. Yep. Like it was 4 turns before I could finally get in to the fight. And and at that point, both our cleric and our monk had gone down to negative, gone to 0 hit points. So it was one of those things. I mean, we did win, but ultimately it was still one of those like sweating kind of moments. We came closer to a dangerous kind of, not to TPK, but this was we came closer to worrying about that than we did when we fought the dragon a couple episodes ago. Like the dragon, this fight took longer than the dragon fight. The dragon fight went 3-4 rounds, maybe.
Yeah, this
maybe
one went
4
8.
rounds. This one went 8 rounds. So, and I'm ready to pull my hair out. I was like, I can't get anywhere. Fuck! I was so mad because I was blocked in. I couldn't get through my compatriots and stuff, and then of course we still have some rookies. So we had Sydney, who unfortunately was getting kind of tired, and I'm going to throw a fireball over there, and we're like, no, and don't do that.
She couldn't see there was anybody else where anybody was in the room
because of the fog of war on the program. She couldn't see. So yeah, we were like, no, don't do that. And then of course, God's love him, Pete, who tries to get really creative with his magic and his role playing, and he's an engineer in real life, and so he tried to like math out a situation where an opponent drank a potion that turned himself into a fart, basically. He turned himself into a cloud of gas. So he's like, can I fabricate, like using magic and can I fabricate a container that'll hold that smoke, that fog cloud that is the creature? And we're like, and he just looked at him, and it was funny because I could see you just trying to like, what the fuck is this shit?
Well, no, I thought it was a good idea.
It was a good idea.
But I'm like, and I was actually in my head, I was doing the math myself of how big of a container he could make versus how much gas there actually was. And I'm like, nah, you're not going to be able to do that.
Right. And they're worried about that magic user in the back, and he was webbed, and they're all this, and we've got, in the meantime, myself and Euchariah Octavian and whatnot are being hammered on by this Goliath and this, and I'm like, guys, kill the guys around us first, please kill these guys, help me take these dudes out. And it was a fun session. It did certainly go long, but we had a great time, and
Yep.
and I think we were all exhausted by the end too, because we had
Oh
been
yeah.
sitting for 6.5 hours, and I mean Sydney was falling asleep. I think Renee was starting to fall asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. They were both wiped.
And it was just, yeah, it was one of those burn it all. You ain't kidding, man. And I was just like, when we did get done, I'm like, we need to have a solid out at midnight. You know, it's like from now on, because it was getting to be a bit much.
Yeah.
But
Even if it means stopping in the middle of a fight, which is actually the thing is that with as long as we're playing online, it's super easy.
Right.
You just say, okay, we're done for tonight, and it remembers everything.
Right. Exactly, and that's what's really great about gaming like that. And although it isn't the most ideal thing to do, it is still something that happens from time to time. Sometimes you go late and you got to stop in the middle. Even Matt Mercer on Critical Role has a couple of times had to stop the game in the middle of combat because they had realized, you know, hey guys, it's 11 o'clock in California.
Yep.
We gotta cut it. We gotta shut it down. You know, they're tired. It's time to go. So.
Yep. But I mean, that was the high point of my week. Well, I shouldn't say that because it was also my anniversary weekend.
That's right.
Renee
watch your mouth, man. Yeah.
Renee and I had it. Well, I mean, at least I was doing that with my wife. So
that also true.
But that we had a good relaxing weekend. We went out with a couple of friends, and went to one of our favorite breweries, the Royal Oak Brewery. Got rented one of their igloos that they had outside.
Nice, yeah.
And
we saw those at sitting at outside at Fleet and Stella. Stella's birthday is Friday, and she's like, "Maybe we could do that for my birthday." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool."
Yeah,
more of those igloos are popping up everywhere.
You know? Well, yeah, because they're really convenient because they're your own personal little space. So, and then all they do is there's windows in there, so all they have to do is open them up and let them sit for like 10 minutes before the next group gets in and air out, let everything get out of there, and you're good. But yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. It was us and a good chunk of the wedding party. So
cool.
It was our best man, maid of honor, and then the person who actually signed our marriage license.
Very cool, man.
So yeah, it was a good time. And then I had a couple days off, so that was really nice too. So I just back to work today. So how about you?
Same old, man. Just kind of working on trying to work on drawings. I tell you, it's like my work schedule, the way my sleep schedule and living schedule, the way it's working out. It's like I get up and then I'm having a tough time really getting motivated to do anything. You know, it's like eat, take care of the dog, take care of some stuff around the house. Now I got to try and sit and do some drawing and get into a creative space and in my mind, and I'm having a real tough time getting there, you know, because I don't know if it's my environment. I don't know if I need to like rearrange something more in this house where I have like an actual workspace. Because right now I sit on my couch with my drawing board and I draw. And I'm wondering if maybe I need to create it's probably something I should do either in the basement or even like in here, create something where I come in and this is my workspace. And when I'm in here, this is what I'm working, you know, and because I do still have a couple projects I'm starting to work on. I'm going to finish up the logo for us and a couple of the drawings for some other friends. Plus, I just want to get back. I haven't worked on anything that's exclusively mine for a long time. So I want to do some of the stuff like that. But my parents Sunday, my parents' second moving truck showed up, and I was able to get a couple of my friends, thanks to Ross and Shadow, for helping. I know Shadow listens to the show sometimes, but they came and helped unload the truck. It was a decent size.
Were you there on time this time?
Pardon?
So were you there on time this time?
Yes. I really didn't need my sister like fucking livid at me again. Although she was still kind of a shit a few times. You know, I'm griping. I was griping a little bit about like just the sheer amount of stuff my parents have. Like we rented 3 storage units, 3 good sized storage units. The third was kind of a just in case overflow. We got most everything into 2, and then the third one just has a few furniture items in it. But there's a lot of stuff, like a lot. This is what 48 years of marriage does, man. It's just you accumulate so much stuff, and I'm just like, Jesus, there's so much shit. And my sister was like, if we moved you, there'd be tons of comic books to move, and I'm like, yeah. It's true. It's still not going to be as much as this. I mean, it was just an insane amount of stuff. But there was like 7 or 8 of us, and we got it unloaded in about an hour, and that was good. And I got a chance to hang out with Ross and Shadow. I work with they're both of them are old friends of mine, and I work with them at the Parade Company too. So that's it was nice to see those guys and chat and get caught up. I bought them lunch, and then we just kind of hung out for a little while afterwards. I've known Ross, he's like 30 now, and I've known him since he was like 16. And Shadow, I've known him for about 10, 11 years now too.
You're still on the one side of the camera of the frame. There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's the center of the frame.
I know, because I've got a wider screen, and I know that the screen on the Twitch thing is much narrower.
Yeah, I had to square it off. I've got the same thing. I have to make sure that I'm in a certain spot.
I know, and I'm always moving around. I move around, doing that stuff.
You need to put like a little X on your floor so you got your mark.
There you go. I hit my mark every goddamn time. Hoarders. They're not quite hoarders. My parents, I mean, obviously I come by my collecting genetically. I have a lot. I collect a lot. My mother is also a collector. She collects a lot of like different things. She has a movie collection, not quite as substantial as mine. She collects like books. She has a lot of books. She collects teddy bears. She also is like a knitter, and she knits and crochets. So she has shit tons of yarn, like shit tons of yarn. Like we moved boxes or bags and bags and bags of fucking yarn. My mom could start a yarn store,
like a yarn barn.
Yes, like shit tons of yarn. And I mean, like Shadow's partner.
Does she have cats?
No, they have dogs. Shadow's partner Jade is also crochets, and
so Renee.
Yeah, and I was like, I need to see if my mom wants to like has some yarn she wants to just get rid of and give to some of my friends and whatnot, because like literally got tons of it, just fucking tons of it. In fact, she did give up some of her like less nice yarn to like she donated to something to like somewhere before she left. But I mean, just unbelievable amounts of yarn. It's incredible. So they're not hoarders, but they're definitely collectors. So there's a lot. There's just a lot. But like I said, thankfully we got it all done pretty quickly. And
cool.
But that was Sunday. So, and then now it's just once again, same old stuff. I'm looking forward to production starting again in a couple months, because I'm starting to go a little stir crazy.
Mm-hmm. So you drinking anything tonight?
Just my Pepsi standby tonight. I didn't get a chance to get anything new. There's really so many times I feel like I can like review Black Fang or whatever. I've got one more bottle left that from Renee dropped some off for me from that last big batch. So no, I'm not drinking anything other than Pepsi tonight. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer called The Juice is Loose by Transient Artisan Ales.
Has it got a picture of OJ on it?
No, it's actually got like a wave, which the light is actually just kind of picking up on it. But it's just like a big wave. It's kind of a plain silver can, and then it's just got like a little sticker on it. It is a double India Pale Ale. It's done in the New England style. It's very hazy. And it is 8% ABV.
Oh, okay. A little more substantial there.
Yep. It is very cloudy, like a New England IPA normally is. A hazy IPA. It has a very, very citrus aroma and flavor. When I tasted this, it's almost like orange juice that they left some of the rind in because it's a little bitter, but it's mostly that orange flavor.
Okay.
And well, it kind of looks like pulped orange juice. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's I'm gonna take another sip here. And yeah, it is a double IPA, so it's a little higher in the hops. Most of that is coming through as citrus, with just a little bit of bitterness. It's actually now that I'm tasting it again, it's actually pretty good. But it is very, very, very orange. It's almost like a beer mosa. It's almost like having beer with orange juice. It's so citrusy.
Okay.
Overall, though, not bad. I'd say I'll give it 3.75 bottle caps for what it is. It's pretty good. I don't know how much they distribute or where they're at. They're out of Bridgman, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, transient artisan ales. The juice is loose. So
I think that was I say the juice is loose because I think that was one of the things they used to say about O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Kind of the things like when he was out. Okay, cool. I promise, guys, I'll have something to drink next week. I haven't drank much in a couple weeks. Okay, so we do have a lot to talk about. We should probably get to a few of those things. We do have to deal with WandaVision. It was a huge episode. So let me real quick.
47 minutes.
Yeah, it was the biggest episode so far. Real quick, I just kind of want to run through some of the Golden Globe stuff real quick. Just kind of touch on it. Best television series drama was The Crown. It's a Netflix show about the history, like the more recent history of the British royal family. I've heard it's really good. It's not really something that I'm interested in watching. Stella, I'm surprised Stella hasn't watched it. She's a big fan of the royal family. But it was up against Lovecraft Country, The Mandalorian, Ozark, and Ratched, as in Nurse Ratched. Mm-hmm. So all great shows, apparently. I've heard good things about all of these shows. Lovecraft Country and Ratched other than the Mando, are the only other one, are the ones that I'm kind of interested in. Ozark, take or leave it. But cool, The Crown. Schitt's Creek was best musical or comedy. That's another show that I've heard nothing but good things about. Hilarious show.
It is. You got to get through like the first season.
That's what I hear. I hear the first season's a little. They're finding their footing.
After 3 episodes, I was ready to give up, and Renee's like, "No, let's keep watching it." And we watched through the first season, and then after that, I love that show. It's actually hilarious.
Yeah, it's interesting too because it's done. The show is done, and it seems like it started to really get its more critical attention at the end of it. By the time it was finishing up. I also like the fact that it's Eugene Levy and his son, his real life son, that are together working on it together. So that's pretty cool. And
his daughter's in it too.
Really? Okay, cool. So best television limited series, anthology, or motion picture made for television's The Queen's Gambit, about the woman who was very much got involved, was a big deal chess player.
Yep.
It was also up against some really cool things. Now, I've heard
that's really good too.
Yeah, me too. And the cool thing is Anna Taylor-Joy, who's in the movie, who is the lead. She's nominated for this movie. She's nominated. Her movie here is nominated. She's nominated for a couple of things, and then she's also nominated for like something else too, or like she got multiple nominations for things she worked on. Now she also played Ilyana Rasputin in The New Mutants, which I have not watched yet. I bought it on Blu-ray. I've been hanging on to it because I kind of wanted to do like an X-Men marathon and end it with that. But I think I'm just gonna finally just sit and watch it because I have heard, although it didn't perform as well as they wanted it to. I heard mostly decent critical reviews. Most of the stuff was at worst, it was like, yeah, it's okay. I think most of them were like, hey, it's decent for what it was. And considering that it sat on the shelf for like 3 years, definitely want to see it. We also have best performance by an actress is Emma Corrin from The Crown. Went up against some pretty tight competition. We see best performance by an actor in television series. We have Josh O'Connor for The Crown. He was up against Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul and Jason Bateman for Ozark and Al Pacino for Hunters. We have Catherine O'Hara won Best Performance by an Actress in a TV Musical or Comedy for Schitt's Creek, which is pretty cool. And she was up against Kaylee Cuoco for Flight Attendant. I've heard fun things about The Flight Attendant, so I'm looking forward to catching that as well.
I started watching it.
I mean, it's in the comedy thing, but I hear it's a little more serious.
Oh yeah, it definitely doesn't seem comedy from what I've seen in the first episode.
More of a dramedy, maybe.
Yeah, not even so dramedy.
Okay, so we have Jason Sudeikis won for Ted Lasso for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy. I'm not familiar with that show at all. I believe it's on Apple Plus, and one of those things I don't have. Gillian Anderson won for The Crown, and there were jokes that she was confusing her fans because she was speaking in an American accent. Gillian Anderson is not British, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. We have John Boyega won for Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Supporting Role for something called Small Axe. Now, I'm not familiar with this at all, but John Boyega was, of course, Finn in the later Star Wars movies. Somebody that was probably was kind of shit on, unfortunately, in the later Star Wars movies, because they introduced him as being a kind of a bigger deal character, and then they kind of didn't do much with it. So he was up against Brendan Gleeson for The Comey Rule. He's Daniel Levy for Schitt's Creek, Jim Parsons for Hollywood, and Donald Sutherland for The Undoing. We have Anna Taylor-Joy. This is an anthology series or motion picture made for television. Best Performance by an Actress. So Anna Taylor-Joy, whom I was just talking about for The Queen's Gambit. She was up against Cate Blanchett and Nicole Kidman and some pretty stiff competition. We have Mark Ruffalo. He for Best Actor in a Limited Series, Anthology, or Motion Picture made for TV. I know this much is true. He plays a set of twins, I believe, Mark Ruffalo. Up against Bryan Cranston, Jeff Daniels, Hugh Grant, and Ethan Hawke. Some pretty tight competition. Now, the cool thing was, too, is they all accepted their awards via Zoom or whatever else. So they were all at home in their get-ups, and, it was pretty cool. Best Motion Picture Drama, Nomadland.
I'd love to see somebody come out in, like, their pajamas and just accept it.
Oh, actually, Jodie Foster.
Oh, yeah?
Jodie Foster was sitting in her pajamas with her partner. They were both in their pajamas. I kid you not. So yeah, Best Motion Picture Nomadland is the best for drama. I've heard that is quite good. It's up against The Father, Mank, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, Borat, subsequent movie film. So this was kind of interesting. Sacha Baron Cohen got nominated. His movie here, of course, Borat, the Borat sequel, got nominated and it won. He also was nominated, or the movie that he was not in, The Trial of the Chicago 7, completely different movie, very serious movie. He was nominated for that as well. That movie was nominated for a few things, but having seen Borat, subsequent movie film, it was very funny. It was extremely funny, and it was very important because it shined a light on some pretty fucked up shit that's going on in the country. So if you, particularly during the Trump reign, he filmed it pretty much all last year during the pandemic, and a lot of it was last year during the pandemic, and it's a very, for being a comedy and being a farce, it's pretty important for us to see what that side was like. Also, he is pretty much no longer, Sacha Baron Cohen has come out saying he will no longer be doing any movies where he is in disguise like that. I mean, he'll still do movies where he's doing characters, but he's not going to pretend to be Borat anymore. It's just, he found it to be potentially too dangerous. So it was interesting, though. Best Director for a Motion Picture, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. She's the first Asian American woman to ever win this award, if I remember correctly from what I heard. It was pretty cool. She was up against Aaron Sorkin for Trial of the Chicago 7. Regina King, One Night in Miami, who is also known for being one of the lead characters in Watchmen. David Fincher in Mank, for Mank. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. So there's some tight competition here. Best performance by an actress in a motion picture, Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday. It's a movie, I believe, on Hulu right now. Best performance by an actor in a motion picture drama, Chadwick Boseman won this for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He, of course, won it posthumously. His widow accepted the award for him. It was the last thing he did, and I'm glad that he was honored for that, because the guy was a hell of an actor. Best performance by an actress in a motion picture musical comedy, Rosamund Pike for I Care a Lot. It's a new movie that just came out on Netflix about a woman who basically scams retirees, and she has a home for that. She takes care of elderly people, and she pretty much scams them out of their money when she brings them in. So, but it pretty much just came on Netflix, like maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and it got on here pretty early. Let's see, rounding them out here, Sacha Baron Cohen won for best performance by an actor in Borat, subsequent movie film. It was pretty great. He did. He actually wanted to pray in his acceptance speech. He praised his really great comedic partner, Rudy Giuliani, and how he would go on to such comedy hits as Four Seasons, Landscaping, and some of the other things that Giuliani did after this was so ridiculous. But no, then he did praise the young woman who played his daughter in the film, who was really amazing, hilarious. Jodie Foster won for The Mauritanian, the winner for actress in a supporting role in any motion picture. And like I said, she was sitting on a couch with her partner in their pajamas with their dog. It was
and CD said she got the award for best acceptance Skype.
Yeah, best acceptance. Yeah, for real, man. It was pretty cool. Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah for best actor in a supporting role in any motion picture. Daniel Kaluuya was
that's
also
on HBO Max right now.
Yes, it is. I believe probably he'd be better known. He was also known for being in. I think he was in Get Out. He was also in Black Panther. So that guy's career is rising very quickly. Best motion picture animated, Soul, the new Pixar film that is on Disney Plus right now. I've heard amazing things. It's on my list. I'm going to catch it. I've heard it's really good. It was up against Onward, Over the Moon, Wolfwalkers, and Croods: The New Age. I think the Onward is the only one that I had seen, which I really did enjoy. Onward was really fun. Best motion picture foreign language, Minari. Best screenplay was The Trial of the Chicago 7. Best original song, motion picture, IOC or Scene from The Life Ahead. Just kind of rounding out best original score, Soul, which was done by Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Batiste. So I found that to be interesting that Trent Reznor scored a Pixar film. Kind of weird.
He does an amazing job with scores.
Yeah, he really does. The interesting thing is he was nominated twice in this category because he was also nominated. He and his partner Atticus Ross were nominated for Mank as well. So in that category. So that rounded it off. Interesting year for the Golden Globes. Like I said, another virtual ceremony. It was different, but it was kind of cool. And I mean, there's some really tight competition on some of these stuff. I haven't seen, of course, everything, but I have heard. I mean, I've heard some really great stuff from a lot of the nominees. Nothing that made me go, really? That movie? So, anyway.
You got something? Yeah, well, yeah. Just one of the things I was going to bring up. You had mentioned all these different things like the Queen's Gambit and stuff that are on Netflix and all this. Thursday, 2 days from now, we get a new show on Netflix, a new animated series, Pacific Rim: The Black. And to me, it actually looks kind of cool. It definitely looks better than the second Pacific Rim movie. But it's basically the kaiju have taken over the continent, and these two young adults, late teens, find a mech, and basically along with it, a training program on how to use it.
Oh, interesting.
So they actually become new mech pilots.
Okay. Hey, I'm down, man. I loved Pacific Rim. I loved the first one. I didn't dislike the second one. Um, I think it's a kind of a really cool kind of thing. I
The animation looks really good too.
Yeah, yeah. I think I prefer when it comes to kaiju and giant monsters. I kind of prefer the new King Kong and Godzilla movies as opposed to this. In fact, King Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus King Kong, whatever it's called, that's coming up real soon. It's going to be on HBO Max. I am
End of the
super
month,
excited.
31st, I think it
Is
is.
that it?
Yeah.
Okay, I am really excited for this. I think it's going to be
The thing is, I haven't seen any of the new Kong movies or the new Godzilla movies.
Well, then you really should see them before you see this, because like watch Godzilla King of the Monsters, watch you want to see Kong Skull Island, and then you see this. I mean, it's
So I
four
don't have to
movies
watch
altogether.
King Kong, the 3 hour movie with Jack Black.
No, that has nothing to do with this.
I thought it did.
No.
I thought that was the
No.
lead into
Nope.
to Kong Skull Island.
No, not at all. Not at all. Kong Skull Island, completely separate thing. It's honestly a lot of fun.
Really I've actually heard it's pretty good.
It is. It's got Loki, Tom Hiddleston. It's got what's his name? It's got Danny Glover. I think it's got a great cast. What's the guy from the guy from Step Brothers that works with Will Ferrell a lot?
Oh, Riley.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in it. He's
C.
really
Riley.
Funny. Thomas C. Riley. Yeah. He's really funny in the movie. King Kong is a lot bigger too. Kong, they don't call him King Kong. They can't call him King Kong. They can call him, that's a separate license apparently. So he's just Kong. Although they do say, hey, at one point he does say, yeah, that's Kong. He's king on this island, But they make him much bigger because so that he
John
can.
C. Riley.
John C. Riley. That's it. They make him a lot bigger in Kong Skull Island than he was in previous iterations because they were preparing him to go up against Godzilla. And and a lot of people are speculating that Kong and Godzilla will team up against Mechagodzilla because that's what's going to happen. Probably because Mechagodzilla does seem to make an appearance as well in this film. So I think it's really fucking fun, and I like the lore that they've created. So guys, if you want to check those out, they're pretty cool. The first Godzilla movie is a little difficult because people are like, he's hardly in the movie. It's a lot of it is about the people dealing with Godzilla, but it's still pretty cool. And like I said, King of the Monsters was really fucking cool, really fun. Explaining the reason why these Titans, they call them Titans, why these Titans exist and stuff like that. Some cool stuff.
Well, so one of the other things I was going to talk about. Oh, by the way, speaking of HBO Max and stuff like that, things coming to it, we are just over 2 weeks away from the Snyder Cut too.
Yes, yeah. We're also right around. I think at the end of the week, CBS All Access becomes Paramount Plus.
Thursday, actually, that's also Thursday. Yep. But one of the other things I was going to talk about was an article I saw today. Our buddy Steve over in Ireland actually posted one thing, and I found a different article about it. And it was talking about Hasbro and specifically Wizards of the Coast, and how Hasbro is reorganizing its business structure in order to continue growing Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
Because Wizards brought in $816 million in 2020.
That's incredible. I'd like to see what their product, with the growth of that industry has been, or that company specifically over the last 10 years, because we've seen such a big growth of gaming in the last 5 to 10, 6 to 8 years. I'd like to see, and then on top of it, the pandemic certainly helped with a lot, helped them.
Yes, because a lot of, they even talk about it in this article, that a lot of people's like entertainment budget
bless you.
That would have gone to like movies and going out has gone to things like board games and tabletop games and things like that.
Mhm.
So they did say that it is a 24% increase from 2019 overall for Wizards.
That's substantial. That's substantial.
And that it comes in large part from record-setting sales for both Dungeons and Dragons and the landmark fantasy landmark fantasy role-playing game and Magic the Gathering, the collectible card game that put Wizards on the map back in the 90s. D&D saw a 33% boost in sales over 2019.
Wow.
And Magic saw a 23% boost in sales.
Wow. That's really saying something. That's really, really awesome.
So they're they're going through all this stuff. They said they give a lot. They actually give credit in this article for the boom being so good, and that it's at a it is more popular and profitable right now than it's been at any other point in its 47-year history, due to its increasing mainstream visibility and the continued proliferation of popular live play shows like Critical Role, Acquisitions Incorporated, and Dimension 20, and Tavern Knights. But
nice.
we're not in the article, but
we're gonna slide in the DMs anyway.
Yes. But yeah, so and then they talk about the D&D Beyond app being really popular. At the same time, the virtual tabletop website Roll20, which is independent but officially licensed to release Dungeons and Dragons material, saw a 300% increase in the number of games played on its site.
Wow, it's really amazing.
It's because of the pandemic. Everyone went virtual.
Right, exactly.
Even so, Hasbro reported an 8% loss of revenue in 2020. But
as many toys, but they're buying books and games.
Well, and that's the thing. Now they're saying they're basically restructuring so that they're going to be a game company that has toys as a sideline instead of a toy company that has games as a sideline. They also came out with a new logo for Wizards of the Coast.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that.
But also included in this, there's going to be 2 new unnamed D&D video game projects.
Hey, I'm down, man. I love D&D video games.
Now, this is on top of the Baldur's Gate that's already out there and the Dark Alliance game.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That I actually didn't know about until I read this, which is based on R.A. Salvatore's books.
Right, and it's going to be very much kind of a similar, from what I understand, similar to the previous Dark Alliance games that came out for the PlayStation 2 many years ago.
And then this is something I'm actually not happy with. And that is that Hasbro also announced that it plans to continue bringing crossover content to Magic the Gathering. Last year saw the debut of new cards that introduced both several of the Godzilla franchise's monsters and the characters of AMC's The Walking Dead.
Into Magic the Gathering?
Into Magic the fucking Gathering.
I don't agree. I think that, that's a big stretch, man. Magic the Gathering should maintain it's a fantasy setting. It should maintain a fantasy setting.
And I agree with that. Would they actually put in like parentheses, which means somewhere in the world, at least in theory, there's been a game of Magic the Gathering where Negan fought Mothra.
That's fucking stupid. All right.
But yeah, they're also planning on teaming up. They've already signed deals with Warhammer 40K.
Okay.
And Middle Earth Enterprises, which owns the rights to all of J.R.R. Tolkien's works. And they've already said that there will be a complete expansion for Magic that will be all Lord of the Rings.
I'm down with that. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that one I don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
But bringing in Godzilla and those monsters and especially Walking Dead.
Yeah. I could see a Walking Dead card game. If people want to do that,
but not
or even
into
a Godzilla
Magic
one,
itself.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what they'll do. Maybe they'll make it separate. Because that is kind of silly. But for those of you, as a reminder, guys, Baldur's Gate 3, which was released last summer, was not released in its entirety. It was basically kind of launched in its beta, where you could play the first, say, 20 hours or so of the game. It's basically maybe like the first 25% of the game that you could play. A lot of people actually are recommending, if you really are into the Baldur's Gate games and the D&D games, just wait for the full release, because
it's kind of what I'm doing right now.
But I have heard good things. I mean, because that's the thing. Not only did they not release in the entire game, it's definitely an unfinished game.
Well, yeah, they said you're limited on what classes you can be
and races
and things like that. So
they just recently released the druid class. They've been updating it slowly, like little updates, but then they're saying, I believe this summer they're going to be releasing the entire game. Interestingly enough, though, it cost $60 last month, or when they first released it. It's going to cost $60 when they do the final release. They're not raising the price or lowering it for any of it. They're just like, nope, this is the flat rate. You know, you want to pay 60 now, you can pay 60 later.
And they've said that they're probably going to wipe everything from beta.
Yeah.
That when you get the full game, you're going to have to start over anyway.
Exactly. And that was the thing. I was just like, nah, I'll wait. As much as I was really looking forward to that game, it was supposed to be released, I think,
it's supposed to be like September or something.
It got released in September. It got delayed because of COVID. But they did release in September, and it was just like I was really chomping at the bit to play that game because I love the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 games. I replayed them more recently on my computer when I downloaded them again and stuff, and they're just absolutely immensely fun games. And because I purchased them on Steam as a package of all of the D&D games from that era, and they still hold up. They still hold up really well. So Baldur's Gate 3, done by a slightly different company, a different company, but and it's going to be a slightly different engine from the past versions, but still a really great game. So I am down for all of this. They've also said that D&D, they will be increasing their product, like putting more product out. Their rate of putting books out. Lately, what they've been doing has been putting out like maybe 2 bigger books, 2 bigger content books.
Four books a year, but
2 bigger content books and then 2 smaller like adventure books.
Yeah.
And but now that's probably going to increase. Now the problem with this, and we've experienced this before with Dungeons and Dragons, before Wizards of the Coast bought them, and even after they did, when in version 3.5 and whatnot, that they were putting out so much stuff that they glutted the market. That there were just too many books out there.
And campaigns got out of hand, characters got too powerful, which I'm already seeing with Tasha's.
Right. Now the thing to remember is that dungeon masters are going to have to kind of keep an eye on that and try and limit things that they think is going to overpower things.
Yep, which is what I've done in our campaign, where I've said, nah, I'm not going to use Tasha's right now. Exactly. And I'm starting to try and kind of work some things in to see how it works.
Now, yes, there are going to be some rules that are maybe be game breaking, or be game breaking for one campaign, but not game breaking for another. And that's the beauty of role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons and homebrew campaigns and content. If you're going to play something straight out of one of the adventure books, great. That's fantastic too, but those are built more for like the set system, the set games. I think but I also think that Wizards of the Coast, and Hasbro, it's still a business, still a company, but I think they've learned a bit. I think they've learned that even if they do increase their amount of production, which I really think they can. I mean, only putting out like maybe 4 to 6 books a year, that's not a lot when you really think about it in the grand scheme. They could double that and still be probably like maybe some years. Maybe not double it, but maybe if they put an extra 25% out. So instead of 4
is great, 1 a quarter.
I think 4 is good too, but I think they probably could get away with maybe 6, maybe 8 one year, and then maybe the next year they do 6, or maybe they kind of vary it a little bit.
I think that's too many.
Well, it also depends on what they're putting out too. If they're putting out,
like this year, we're supposed to get 3 campaign books, supposedly.
Right.
Which we're getting the Ravenloft, yeah. Which isn't really a campaign book so much as a way to help you do horror campaigns. So I guess it is.
It is.
But it's supposedly it was 3 campaign worlds, previously published campaign worlds. is what we were going to get. So everyone was really hoping that they're going to get Dragonlance this year.
And that's still a thing. In fact, from a lot of the rumors that I've been hearing, considering the fact that we've got a new book series coming out, and the fact that Manganiello has hinted at a couple of things that he knows about, I would not be surprised if we see a Dragonlance hardcover before the year's out. It's considering that Dragonlance was one of the most popular, separate worlds of Dungeons and Dragons that we've ever seen. The other thing too is Dungeons and Dragons has a lot of shit we have not seen any kinds of stuff for since 5th edition came out, such as Dragonlance, such as Spelljammer or Greyhawk. Dark Sun or Greyhawk themselves. They're one of the original settings.
Greyhawk is the one I'm really hoping for.
Sure, that's the setting that you prefer to play in. So it's they've got a lot of stuff they could put out now, and that's the thing. If they finally put out a couple more of these settings now, instead of just putting out some of these bigger books, they could put out the bigger books, and then they could start releasing adventures in those settings, and and that way they're still putting out books, but they're not necessarily putting out a shit ton of new content that we're all having to add to our rules and whatnot. Instead, they're just putting out information that's for the settings, or like I said, more adventure arcs and stuff like that people can play. So I think it's doable. It just depends on what they put out. There's a difference between because I remember when we were kids, man, they were stacks. There are huge amounts of the little adventure books that they put out. There was essentially the size of a 35 page magazine. It really wasn't a whole lot to it. It was a paperback, binding, but there wasn't a ton of stuff in those. It was just the adventure. Now the adventure books.
You're talking about the modules.
The modules, right? Thank you. The modules now are, thicker hardcover.
They tend to put out campaign modules now.
Now they're putting out campaigns. The old modules were mainly more of a shorter, more of an adventure.
Yeah, or you would have a series like Against the Giants. Well, or the Against the Giants, which was 3 adventures, which then led into the Vault of the Drow, which was 2, and then Queen of the Demon Web Pits. And your characters would progress, and you could do an entire campaign that way, but you could also stop at any point along that way, and just do the modules.
Right, and you were playing that, like I said, and you'd purchase the modules separately. Now, instead of putting those modules out, now instead you're getting 10 of those modules in one hardcover, or 8 in one hardcover, instead of buying them all separately.
But well, we should get going because we're already at almost an hour, and
we should. Let me touch on one or two other things right quick. Some big things coming out from DC Comics. The Infinite Frontier book came out this week. It was a big kind of book that's supposed to redefine the DC universe. I haven't read it yet. I'll get my copies tomorrow. But it is a big deal. It's going to help to redefine the new DC universe, post death metal and the other things that they've been doing, and teasing some of the events and talking about some of the events that are going to be coming up later this year. They're going to have a miniseries. They just announced a miniseries this summer called Infinite Frontier that's going to come out of this, that's going to help to further redefine the new DC omniverse, so what they're calling it now. Also in it, a couple of big things, a couple of big spoilers. There is certain, resurrections have happened, a couple of other big things, but they did just recently now state that the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, has been revealed to be gay. Apparently, he came out of the closet to his kids, the superheroes Obsidian and Jade, and that apparently, a character that has existed since 1941, I believe, and the original Green Lantern they've established in continuity that he has been gay the whole time and that he was closeted and that kind of thing. It's a big deal, big storyline that they're going to probably be exploring later on. They did try and make Alan Scott gay after the New 52, and they created the new Earth 2 with all younger versions of the Earth 2 characters, and he was established as a gay character. But this is a big deal, you know, the original Alan Scott kind of coming out to his siblings, particularly considering like the generation that he is supposed to represent.
His siblings or his kids?
Or his kids. It came out to his kids. Sorry. I actually read a couple of pages. I saw it on a Newsarama website. It looks pretty good. It looks like it was a good representation of that. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of taking a character and suddenly changing that's been around for years and years and years, and suddenly changing their sexuality. But if it's done well, you know, great. Yeah, then that's kind of cool. I mean, I think this also is very representative of things that happen in this world, in the world these days. You know, somebody that is an older person and whatnot, and then that's been closeted for years and years because they feel like they couldn't come out. And this is a way of having that representation. So that's kind of cool. So not to move through that too quickly, but I am going to move through that. A couple of things. I'm going to jump away from the DC stuff because that would take a lot more like explaining and shit. But just keep your eyes open. And for those of you guys who are reading DC Comics, keep your eyes open for the Infinite Frontier stuff. It looks like it's going to really heavily redefine DC Comics. The PlayStation Network made some announcements today and yesterday. One of the PlayStation Plus's new games for this month is the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which came out last year. Now, most of the time, the free games that they give out for PlayStation Plus tend to be a little bit older. They're like 2, 3, 4 years older. This game is less than a year old. So they put this game out, and it is free for PlayStation Plus members. For those of you guys who don't know, if you do have a PlayStation Plus membership, there is a lot of great free games. Detroit Become Human, Fallout 4, Days Gone. But there's a ton of them.
Like Xbox Game Pass, they can disappear at any moment.
Well, the thing is, though, the thing about it that's interesting, that's different, is once it is downloaded and once it is on your system and in your library, it's there. You have it. So even if it gets taken off for the month or once it's gone, it's still there. I have several games that I've downloaded onto my hard drive, and I could delete them if I want, but because they're still in my library, I could re-download them. So even though I haven't paid for these games, I have paid for them through PlayStation Plus for having that membership. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, Final Fantasy VII, which the remake, which got amazingly good reviews, even though it is only actually like the first third of the game.
Yeah, it's like maybe 20 hours.
Yeah, like the first maybe 25% of the game or so, maybe 25 to 30%. They're still saying that it is one of the coolest games that came out last year. Must play yet kind of game.
I agree, CD. That's kind of lame because I bought it. Renee played through it and was done in a couple of weeks.
No, I definitely agree too, because I didn't buy it. I haven't played it. I did download it since it was free, because one of the things that I felt like I would just play it when they released the whole game, all the parts. They were probably good. They'd put a box set together or whatever, and I'd play it that way, because I don't want to play, for the most part, most of the time, I don't want to play a third of a game and wait for the rest of it, you know. But like I said, because it's free and part of PlayStation Plus, I'm down. Also, PlayStation Network did announce that they would no longer, as of at the end of August, you'll no longer be able to rent or purchase movies or television shows on the PlayStation Plus network. They're going to do away with the whole movie rental purchasing thing. Now, at first I was kind of like, well, that's bullshit. What if you've already bought a bunch of movies and you own them through the PlayStation Network? They said that you will still be able to access those movies. You'll still be able to watch them and access them through the PlayStation Network. They will just no longer be offering further rentals or purchases on going forward.
It's kind of like what WoW did with cable TV, Wide Open West. They no longer offer cable TV.
Really? They're only internet, huh?
They're only internet. But if you have their cable TV from before, they still support it.
Huh, I didn't know that.
But they are not selling it to anyone new.
Okay. So also, once again, I'm going to get to these quick hits before we get into WandaVision.
I got one more quick hit too. So
I started playing Kingdom Come Deliverance just last night on my PlayStation 5. It is a PS4 game. that is a RPG set in the very early 15th century, right around 1403. It is a real world setting with history, real world history. It's chock full of facts and information about the setting of the early Renaissance, late medieval kind of period, right there in Central Europe. It takes place in kind of the Czech area, the Bohemia area of the world, and you play the son of a blacksmith whose family dies because of war and whatnot. And but it is a rich game, and it's difficult and it's interesting, and I'm just at the very beginning. I just got through like basically the opening tutorials part, and where they you get through that, and then it rolls the opening credits, and I'm interested. It seems pretty cool so far. I'll have to let you know. Cool. Lastly, there is coming in the end of or mid-May, or maybe I can't remember. I think it might be mid-May. A new show based on a comic book by Mark Millar called Jupiter's Legacy. It's going to be on Netflix. They just released a trailer, I think yesterday, about a legacy of a superhero family, essentially, and like the children of these big superheroes and stuff like that. I haven't read the comic. It's gotten some really great like feedback and review, and I don't know, from the trailer, the show looks like it could be pretty cool. So you might want to keep your eyes open for Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix.
Cool.
What did you have before we get into that?
Well, this is actually more. I'm going to skip the Samsung stuff. We can talk about that next week if we have time. But this is something that kind of, it doesn't really tie in so much, but it is MCU related. There's been more set pictures coming out from Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Including that the actors are back from Ragnarok.
Oh yeah.
That Matt Damon, Luke Hemsworth, and Sam Neill have all been spotted on set in costume.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
As Loki, Thor, and Odin. And along with them, Melissa McCarthy has been spotted on set dressed as Hela.
Oh my God. That's awesome. If they are actually Asgardian actors continuing to play the roles, that's really funny.
And supposedly that's the whole thing, is they're going to be acting out the stuff from Ragnarok, including possibly the talk that Odin has with Thor and Loki before he disappears.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, who knows? I mean, we don't know which Asgardians survived Hela's attack. We don't know which Asgardians survived.
Well, we know that there's a bunch of
Thanos' attack. Oh yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but we don't know the true numbers of because Thanos apparently, we had the Asgardians escaped the destruction of Asgard and onto that spaceship, right? Yep. And as far as we know, they got as many out as they could, as many that had survived the initial attack that Hela made, which was quite a bit. But then Thanos attacked the ship and to get the Tesseract and whatever else. And Thor talked about that he killed half of his people.
Yep.
So Thanos didn't just go out and wipe out all the Asgardians. He killed half of them. Yep. Which is what he was doing.
Which is what he was doing. Yep.
He was doing. I mean, Thanos had his plan. He had his that he stuck to, and so, but still, you're still talking about probably a couple thousand people at the very least. There's probably at least that in that town in Norway, that of New Asgard. There's probably at least a couple of thousand, 2,000-3,000 people.
Yep.
Who's to say they're not still having babies and whatever else, I mean, Asgardians live very, very long lifespans. So maybe they're not, maybe none of them have had kids yet or anything, but hopefully the race is on the comeback. And we don't know who survived and who died. So maybe those actors did. That's the other thing. And that's the other thing that people don't talk about. Like the characters that you see in the comic books and in the movies and stuff like that, they're they are the heroes of the Asgardian people. They are the big deal, the gods, the goddesses, the ones that are really powerful and stuff. But even just a normal Asgardian is still 5 times tougher and 5 times stronger, or 10 times stronger than your average human. Can they, even just a normal Asgardian can still lift a car, you know?
Yep.
So it's, oh man, the concepts about that alone are things that could be dealt with, you know. I think Marvel there's so many stories and so many elements that have sprung from the MCU that they could turn into properties that they have never really dealt with, you know. Like we could have seen Asgardians on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. more often.
Yep.
You know, we could have seen, I mean, there was twice that they showed up. There was when Sif showed up, and then when Peter McNichol's character showed up, and he was like a college professor or something. He'd become a college professor, but he was an Asgardian, and he wasn't like a big super badass like Thor or Loki. He was just more of an average warrior, and like a castle guard or something. And you know, he was also a serious badass because he was just that much more powerful than a normal person.
Yep.
There's so many things. I'm really excited to see what their Marvel is going to do with their TV and movies in the next year or two, because after WandaVision, directly after WandaVision, we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
They got like what, 1 week off, and then
like
Falcon
1 week off, and then they just announced the start date for Loki is pretty much right after Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I think we're gonna get like a month between.
I think it's
Falcon.
June 2nd.
I thought it was June 15th or something.
Maybe
like
it
that.
could be, but it's in
like
June.
Mid-June, yeah. But with it starting in May, I think it's only another 8 episodes or something like that for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
No, Falcon and Winter Soldier starts in March.
Right, and then it's only like 8 episodes, so it'll be done in May.
Right. Okay, and then so maybe a month.
So
but
I think
then,
we got a month then before Loki.
But then we've got all these other things that they're coming too. Like you've got the She-Hulk show. We've got, there's rumors now.
Black Widow's supposed to be out in May. The movie.
The movie is it May? Okay.
Yeah.
Got the new movie. You got Eternals coming out this year as well. Finally, they're saying it's another.
There's 4 movies this year. I know.
Right, and they're saying that's a game changer. That's another, like the producers, the people that have seen it and everything, they're like, oh, this movie is going to knock your socks off. It's another Avengers. It's going to be huge. There's also, like I said, the Hulu shows. They've got the Moon Knight show, the She-Hulk show. We've also got Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, whatever the Hawkeye show.
The Hawkeye show.
That's coming up. I think Hawkeye might be next year, actually.
Yeah, Ironheart as well.
Ironheart was recently cast. They announced a casting for her. You got Ms. Marvel with Kamala Khan. They've already talked about Kamala Khan will probably also show up in Captain Marvel 2. I mean, they're tying stuff together more. We're going to see a ton more stuff.
You know, we're going to get a Spectrum show or movie or something.
Something. She's going to at least show up. She's going to be in Captain Marvel 2. So, I'm loving it. Oh, and then on top of it too, all of the Netflix characters have now reverted back to Marvel. I believe all of them have. So they're already in talks with Kristen Ritter to reprise her role as Jessica Jones in.
Well, Charlie Cox is already supposedly signed on for
Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah, Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's also they're talking to having him on and some other stuff. Like I said, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones in both She-Hulk, and possibly another, have her show up in more things. I think Kristen Ritter she's playing it smart. She's like, well, it depends on the script and depends on how much money and depends on a lot of things, other things that's going on. But everybody wants her back because she was perfect. Mm-hmm. And of course, like I said, the Moon Knight show that they're teasing. I mean, why wouldn't they bring back Luke Cage? Luke Cage was immensely popular.
And the guy that they had playing him was just absolutely fantastic. I loved him.
We've also got Blade. We've got the new Spider-Man spinoff stuffs like Morbius and Venom 2 coming up. There's so much stuff. and I'm really happy about it. I'm like, I mean, if only DC could get this right, you know. Last but surely not least, they did announce that there is they have hired that Warner Brothers has hired Ta-Nehisi Coates to pen the new Superman movie. There is rumor, though, that this Superman may possibly be black instead of, you know, at first they were saying, well, Clark Kent could be black in this film. Now, other people have said, well, it might not be Clark Kent. It may be the Superman of the parallel dimension where Superman is also the president, where it's Val Zod and not Kal-El. So we'll see how that goes. Personally, I know that
he's teaming up with J.J. Abrams to write that.
Right, J.J. Abrams is what now. The two of them together, Team Supreme, I'd say they're probably going to tell a hell of a story. Personally, though, I kind of, I don't know. I
don't want to see Clark change race. I think that's something that I don't agree with. I don't agree with taking a character that's been around for 80 years and changing them that drastically.
Yeah, I think it's gimmicky.
I think there does need to be representation for other minorities and ethnic groups and things like that.
Absolutely.
But I think that we need to give them their own heroes.
Right, exactly. There should be just more heroes and characters of other races and creeds and genders and whatever. Yeah. I mean, DC had a great show with Black Lightning, and it's ending after season 4. Not the longest run, but not a terrible run either for a genre show. I mean, it's going 4 seasons. It's not bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea is 6 or 7, but still 4 is pretty good. And I really enjoyed Black Lightning. I watched the first season. I purchased it. I purchased the second season on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of that one yet because I haven't gotten far into the Arrowverse yet.
Quite good. And the first season had 0 tie-in to the Arrowverse. It was later that they tied it in. There's a lot of characters that they could be cultivating, but I think the money guys are like, Superman makes money. Let's make Superman a different race and see what that does.
And Ray Fisher has come out and been blasting them for doing this as well, saying they're trying to gloss over his complaints. And
exactly.
I'm like, he may have had some legitimate claims, but now it's getting to the point where, dude, the world doesn't evolve around you, or revolve around you. It's This has nothing to do with you,
right?
And maybe your complaints got them to do something like this, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then on top of it too, because of the other complaints that came out about Joss Whedon through Charisma Carpenter and some of the other people revolved around that were working around with Buffy and his other shows. It's gotten further attention now, because they did an independent, they hired a group to do like an independent, investigation about, and they apparently they didn't find anything. So a lot of this stuff kind of went away. But now that people are speaking out against Joss Whedon is getting, I don't want to say he's getting canceled, but I mean, he left a project he was working on, and a lot of people think that might have been because of this stuff coming out. So,
well, you're talking about the Nevers, and supposedly he left that because of exhaustion, and that was before a lot of this came out. This was back in November when he left that. So
just seems kind of convenient, though. I mean, but I support Ray and the things he was saying. Particularly since a lot of this stuff has been coming out, the fact that apparently Joss Whedon is kind of a monster to work for. But at the same time,
he's an asshole.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's complete. Apparently Joss Whedon is an asshole. And, but I think Ray needs to maybe move on at this point. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. It just, his voice is, he got it out there. He got some, things. I think it's a shame the way they treated him. But maybe it is time, I don't know, move on. Maybe move on to the next job or something. I don't know. Who knows?
All right. Well, we got to get to WandaVision because we're at an
Yeah.
hour and 15 now.
Right. So we got to move on.
So we have to run through this kind of quick.
WandaVision, episode 8.
Yep.
Holy crap! This was the longest episode.
Previously on is the name.
Previously on, correct. It was the longest episode that we dealt with. We're also not. There was no like specific era on the CD didn't like it. He didn't like that.
Oh, hey, we're not recording anymore. I'm getting an error on recording.
Uh-oh. Well, we're still broadcasting at the very
end. We are, but it's giving me errors. Oh, no space left on device.
Oh, great. Good job. Oh, man.
I filled up my drive? What the hell? Hold on. Let me, because that's a big drive. Let me, sorry about this.
You filled up your drive?
It's saying that there's no space left, and where I save it, holy crap, yeah, it's out of space.
What's the drive you put it on? Is it a terabyte or something?
Yeah, it's a terabyte.
And you have filled your terabyte?
Yes.
With just our shows?
Yeah, just our shows. So let me just delete a few things here.
Wow.
There, let's just delete all those. And there we go. Now we're recording again. So I can put that together later.
I wonder how long that was.
Oh no, it came up as an error. It was only like just a few minutes.
Just a couple minutes. Yeah. All right, great. Anyway, time for separate drive in the closet. That's true.
Yeah, I need just a server. I need to build a server that just holds all of our stuff.
The nice thing is external hard drives are not expensive. You could just kind of keep filling them up.
Yeah, they're not too bad. All right, so I got 16 gigs now of free space, so
that should be enough for the rest of this episode.
Hopefully, it's the rest of the show. Yeah. So.
So anyway, the longest episode that they've had so far. This episode did not have a specific era of sitcom attached to it, but the interesting thing was it was very cool in that it was very much like a flashback episode where when you're watching a show and the main character is remembering things from their past and they look at old episodes, or if not an old episode, it was a clip show. If it's not old episodes, it was where they created a something for people to see.
And the big thing too is that at the beginning, you see the Marvel Studios logo,
mm-hmm.
and it's got its normal red color, and then it just changes to purple.
Yes,
which I thought was kind of cool to show the whole power that we saw in the last one
mm-hmm.
of Agatha's magic.
Right.
And it starts off in Salem, Massachusetts in 1692.
Yes, and that was really cool. I mean, and at first you think she's being dragged away to a Salem witch trial kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she's.
But then they show her hands bound with magical energy.
Yeah, and you're like, oh man, maybe not. And then you see that this isn't Salem witch trial, although it was near that. It was at that time. This is her coven confronting her.
Yeah.
Because whatever she has done, she has done some underhanded shit apparently with her.
She stole knowledge above her age and level or something like that. Is what they said.
Exactly. So that was kind of cool. And you got to see, so either through her own work, I got dirt on my hoodie from the dog. Even from through her own studies or maybe her own natural ability, she is extremely powerful. She is a very powerful witch. And you also find out that the head of the coven is her mother.
Yep. Yes, I thought she was going to get set on fire too. That's what I thought. Because they tie her to a stake and then they all she basically is condemned and they all start shooting this blue energy at her. And at first she's screaming and then she you see a red flash in her throat area. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden she's and it becomes more of a not so much pleasure, but it's definitely a different type of yell.
I think she kind of Yeah, I think she kind of realizes, like, I think the power almost awakens within her, like
Yeah, and
through
then this purple
stress.
energy comes out back down the blue,
Hmm.
and you can see it starts draining all the other witches.
Yeah, draining their life energy away.
Yep.
And I think this was probably one of the reasons why she is so old. Why, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because we're talking 400 years ago, roughly 400 years ago, and she's looks pretty much the same, you know. We also see like her mother get involved, and with the spell, it was supposed to be some kind of binding spell,
Yeah.
and she ends up, and you see like a crown of power
Yeah, I
kind of
saw that too.
appear over her mother's head. So you're
Yeah.
seeing like she had obviously was high ranking within their culture, society, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was pretty cool. And the confrontation eventually,
Yeah, she winds up draining her mother as well.
Yeah, drain and killing her entire coven. And holy crap!
And she walks over, and her mother's wearing that brooch, and she just snatches it off of her.
The cameo that she had,
cameo,
yeah, that we see her wearing in almost all of the episodes.
Yep.
So, when did you watch it last? Did you watch it today? Okay, so it's fresher in your mind. Yeah. I gotta start doing.
So then we get back to modern times, where she's still got Wanda kind of under her control, and she's surprised that Wanda doesn't know the basics of magic. Like, Wanda tries to attack her, and she's like,
"It's like you don't see the bindings.
You don't the basic binding runes.
Yeah, you don't see that stuff. I mean, come on."
And she even says stuff to her about, who taught you this?
Right. Yeah. So at this point, we're getting the information that Agatha actually doesn't know as much as we thought she did. Like, I thought she was the reason this was happening, and yet she wasn't. No, she just showed
up. She was drawn there because of so many spells being cast at the same time.
Right.
And she mentions that. She mentions the idea of how much magic was used all at the same time, and she actually goes through and she tells her, this was all me, blah blah blah, even fake Pietro, or Fietro, if you will. Yeah. Which I thought was funny.
It's got a lot of character. Yeah. I think she definitely has a lot of character.
But she talks about like all the different spells at once, like the mind control and the transformation and or transmogrification and all this stuff that Wanda did, and how she's got people running on autopilot, at the edges of town, miles away, and all this stuff, and it's magic on autopilot.
Yeah, and she's like extremely impressed about.
Yeah, and she's like, I want you to tell me how you did this.
And Wanda can't. Yeah. She can't. She has no idea what she still doesn't know exactly why.
And she keeps saying, I don't know.
So then we see, so then basically Agatha is like, we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yep.
And starts to cast spells and to figure out like Wanda's history and why this happened, what happened.
Where she learned it. We're going to go back and we're going to relive everything.
Right. So we see Wanda, and it was interesting too because this was all Wanda centric. We didn't see any stuff with any of the supporting cast at this point. We haven't seen anything with Darcy or Jimmy Woo or any of those
or even Vision.
Right? It's all Wanda. So we see a scene basically from Wanda's childhood when she and her parents in Sokovia, where they are, and they're speaking English because this their night they practice English, and it's TV night.
Yep.
And apparently Dad somehow, maybe he was buying bootlegs or buying smuggled DVD sets of sitcoms.
Yep.
And at first when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, the time frame, okay, would they have been VHS tapes instead? But no, it's about right. They probably would have been, if we're talking DVDs, 12, 15 years ago, they would have been DVD sets. And she was a big fan of the Dick Van Dyke Show, and she knew exactly which episode she wanted to see, exactly which season. And you start to see where Wanda got her passion and her love for old sitcoms. you know, and
they were a source of joy for her.
mm-hmm.
They were an escape for her entire life, really.
Yes, a connection with her family, and it was actually really kind of sweet, really, when you really think about it. And so they're watching an episode.
Well, we see earlier on we hear gunfire out. You hear gunfire outside, and her mom looks out the windows and can see people fighting in the streets. Yeah, but they sit down and watch TV anyway.
Well, it is like, an Eastern European kind of country where conflict was a thing. You're seeing there's still a lot of conflict in that part of the world. So it actually made a lot of sense, and it's sad, but it made a lot of sense. So they sit down to watch the show, and unfortunately, what happens, part of their origin that we found out about in Ultron, in Age of Ultron, was that a Stark missile went into their apartment, killed her parents, and were killed in it, but the missile never exploded.
Well, and that's the thing. There's a bomb there's something goes off. There's an explosion that goes off, blows in the wall, kills her parents, doesn't kill her and Pietro.
Right.
They hide under a bed. Another missile comes in.
Okay, that might have been.
And basically embeds itself in the floor of their living room.
And didn't explode. It was, and at first they always said, well, it was malfunctioned, or it was
But they show Wanda reach out.
Yes. And then you see Agatha, like, perhaps this was a probability hex.
Yeah, she says that was a probability hex. She says that's exactly what it was.
Right. And she's like, was that maybe your first probability hex? And she's like, it just didn't go off. We just didn't know. And it could very well have been her first probability hex. She's a natural. Perhaps that's where we start to figure out, well, maybe she's just a natural magic user. And it's interesting because that's what Wanda's powers always related to, and we're always supposed to be a part of, was probability. She manipulated probabilities. So instead of the fact, instead of you slipping and falling being, 99% of the chance that wouldn't happen, she used her powers to hex you to where it's 99% that it would happen. So that's what her probability manipulations basically were part of. So then, so we see, and the cool thing is when that kind of thing, when those parts of the episode happen, it's like then they get to take a step out of the scene, and they are able to kind of look around it, and she walks around. Well, and that's the thing. At first, though, she's like, they're calling for Wanda, and she's like, "That's your cue, dear," and pushes her forward, and she becomes little Wanda. Right. Yeah. So she was in it, and then separates herself out of it again. So then after that scene, what was next?
She opens up the door, and Wanda recognizes. She's like, "I don't want to go there."
Right.
Because it's Hydra.
It's Hydra. It's where she and Pietro decide to volunteer for the experimentation process, where they could potentially get powers.
Which is funny because Agatha brings up the fact that your parents were killed in this fighting, and your solution was to join an anti-freedom terrorist group.
Right.
She's like, we wanted to make a difference.
Yeah. It was one of those things that I was like, okay, I do find that the logic kind of flawed in that situation as well. But so we see her be exposed to the mind jet.
Well, and they have the scepter set up in this room, and they bring somebody in. They say, state your name and your whatever, and she says, Wanda Maximoff, volunteer.
Right.
And they're like, all right, go ahead and grab the scepter. And the one guy says,
nobody survived.
Right. None of our other subjects survived. And she doesn't even get to the scepter.
Right.
And the stone pops out, flies over in front of her, and she reaches out for it. It bursts. You see the Mind Stone inside.
Right, because the Mind Stone was inside of a shell that was on the scepter.
And then it floods her with with power,
right,
and then she collapses. What they see is her collapse,
right,
and that's it. She's walking. There's a flash, and she collapses.
right. Now, my guess is that we're seeing the Mind Stone unlocked her potential. I don't think it gave her anything.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're writing into it now, is that it unlocked her potential, just like it also.
well,
And
they had
and it
always
did the
said
same
that
thing
that's what happened with that's what they've always said, is that the Mind Stone is what gave her her powers. But
right. But that was the thing, though, too. There weren't the most. I don't think that's the thing. I don't think the Mind Stone did give her powers. I think it unlocked them.
Yeah.
So,
which would mean that Pietro had his powers too, and the Mind Stone just unlocked them.
Exactly, because they're mutants, and I think this is where we're going to start to see them start to integrate the mutants into them. But that's a whole other fucking theory. So we see them. So at that point now,
and the other thing is that right at the end, when she's seeing all the power, she looks up and there's a silhouette of a woman that looks kind of familiar.
Yeah, looks like she's got the kind of things from her mask.
It kind of looks like somebody in a Sokovian fortune teller's outfit.
Exactly. Now, there was a friend of mine, because I was discussing this with my friends Ross and Shadow the other day too, that it also kind of looked maybe like she was wearing the crown that her mother, Agnes's mother, might have been wearing.
Yes,
too. Like some sort of.
And I thought that at first too, but when I looked at it today, the one that Agatha's mother had, it had two things, but they went back. They swept back more.
Correct.
And there was another thing in the front.
There was
that also
another
swept
one
back. Yeah.
Right. It was much more of a crown as opposed to the headdress that Wanda would wear. So, so we're at this point. You can see Agatha starting to kind of develop a theory.
And she even says that.
Yeah.
She goes,
I've
got a theory.
Right.
But I need more.
Right. So then the next scene.
Yeah. So then we go to Avengers Compound.
Right.
The first home that her and Vision shared together.
Right.
Is what she
says. We get out of the scene probably one of the best. We'll get to it. Probably one of the best quotes that we've seen in not only in television, but one of the best lines that we've seen in the MCU, but also in a lot of television. People have been quoting it on Facebook for the last few days, and it's been getting a lot of traction. But so we
just
get
to go back real quick,
mm-hmm.
when she's at Hydra, she's watching Brady Bunch.
Right. Yeah. And I think she was the one that made sure the TV was showing Brady Bunch too.
And so then we go to Avengers Compound, and she's watching Malcolm in the Middle.
Right. So we know she did have a passion for sitcoms through a bunch of different eras. You can see that she's got a stack of DVD sets too, sitting over there. So we see Vision come in, and the two of them are talking. Now this is post. Obviously, this is at the compound, so this is post Age of Ultron. Pietro is dead, and this is how she's coping. She's pulled into herself, and she's watching TV.
Yep. And
that's how she's coping with the loss of her brother. And I think largely when Stella and I were watching this, I said to her, I go, one of the biggest mistakes I think, go from Stark bombing to Stark employee. That had to have been pretty rough, CD. I think that's messed up in itself. I think one of the biggest mistakes that the Avengers possibly could have made was the fact that we didn't see Wanda getting tons of fucking therapy.
Yeah.
She should have been in massive amounts of therapy to deal with the loss of her country, the loss of her family, the loss, her brother, all of the things that she was dealing with, the essential torture she, kind of experienced when she was with Hydra. All of those things needed to be addressed, and they weren't. As far as we know.
Basically, you hear her call out to Vision, and he comes through the wall, and he's like, I don't mean to intrude. She's like, really? He's like, okay, well, maybe I did, but, and they sit there and talk, and she has him sit down next to her, and they start watching Malcolm in the Middle together, and they show,
he's trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, he's trying to figure it out, and there's the whole scene where the dad gets the whole gazebo thing dropped on his head, and he's like, it's funny because the man's grievously injured, and she's like, but he's not. And he's like, well, how do you know? And she's like, it's not that kind of show.
Right, exactly.
Which I think is important.
It is very. I thought that was very important. It goes to, it lends to the idea of how she perceives life, how she perceives the environment she's created. It was very important, that kind of thing. And I loved how, like, the Vision was obviously still very young at that point. And so he's trying to figure out the ins and outs and the aspects of humanity. Now, it seems to me like he figured it out pretty quickly, because he was much more human the next few times we saw him in the next movies and stuff. He had obviously figured out, because, you know, he has a computer brain, a lot of processing power there. But to get and the Mind Stone.
But to get to your point, they have this whole deep conversation, and the Vision says the line that I think you were talking about.
Yeah, which was, what is love? What is grief, but not love persevering?
Yes.
And I mean, shit, Stella and I were sitting there, and I'm like, oh, jeez. He just rocked me back, you know. I'm like, I mean, Stella got teared up a little bit, and I'm like, oh, God damn, it's getting dry in this house here. Holy shit, you know. It was heavy, man. And that was another reason why I was like, man, she needed to be in therapy, not just, not just training to be a superhero. If anything, Vision was kind of being her therapeutic soundboard at that point,
he was the thing that she found. He was that. He became her rock.
Right.
He was the thing that she could care about, but yet he was artificial. He wasn't, I mean, I won't say he wasn't real, but the emotions he had weren't necessarily real.
Correct. Yeah. He was still figuring things out himself. He needed to be, he should have been in massive amounts of therapy as well. Both of them. I mean, you got this brand new being with all this power and all this information and all this energy. And I mean, he's got a fucking Mind Stone attached to him. And yet he's still, he's thrust into this culture and the society that we live in. I mean, the both of them should have been in massive amounts of therapy. Instead, they had each other. And I think that's something that needed to be addressed. It should have been addressed at one point. So, but we move on to the next part.
Yes, which is she wanted Vision.
Right. Now, the interesting thing is earlier on in the series, the guy who's run Sword, I'm blanking on his name at the moment. Hayward, thank you. That Mind Stone needed therapy. You ain't kidding, man.
Well, I was going to get to, I think I know what you're going to talk about. I was going to save that till after we get through this scene.
Okay. She goes and she's standing at the desk of Sword.
Yep. They show basically the new door that Agatha creates as the entrance to Sword's headquarters.
Right. And I did find that to be kind of cool too. Each door was
representative
of what it was. Yeah. So they go and she shows up and she's there and she's basically like, I know he's here. I want to see the body. I want to see Vision. I want to see
he deserves a burial.
He deserves a burial, right? And the guy goes, he answers the phone at the desk. Yeah, she's still here. She goes, okay, you can go on back down the hallway, third door to the right, or whatever.
2 rights and a left or something like that.
And he's like, yeah, let me buzz you in. She goes, I got it. Boom.
Yeah, and blows the doors open.
And then she goes in and she's stalking.
I like that her whenever she uses her magic too, it's very much like a Street Fighter like key move. It's the
they actually talked about that when they were designing the character, that she wanted to she used like dance and like movements and stuff like that to create the whole kind of
Shoken.
Yeah, particularly dance, from what I understand, to kind of create that power signature that she uses. And it's became less so though. I mean, as it gets more casual, particularly in the show, she's just going like that.
Yeah,
like that, whatever. And so I think that shows that she's becoming more confident with their power and much more, and she knows how to use it better. So anyway, we see her go and talk to Hayward.
Yeah, she goes down. She goes to his office, is what it is.
Right, so. And it just so happens that right behind his office, she can look down into the lab.
Go into like a balcony.
Right, where they are stripping the Vision's body.
Yeah, and
they are taking him apart.
He's like, come with me, and she's like, then you'll give him to me, and he's like, just come with me.
Just come with me. Now I think he set that up.
Oh, I think he did too. Totally.
Right, because you could see when he's watching her. He's watching her face while she's looking at him. He saw her coming.
Yep.
He had his man stall her at the fucking desk so they could go, okay, get Vision's body, put it in this lab right over there.
I think it already was.
Well, they were probably working on it, but they had established that they couldn't get it to get started. They couldn't.
They rebuilt him multiple times.
Right,
and later on. That's later on, but that's
right. I think that they staged all of that so that she could see it, so that they could get some kind of reaction out of her.
Yep. Yeah, he tells her that, she's like, what are you doing? And he says, we have a legal and ethical responsibility to disassemble.
Right. This weapon.
The most advanced, intelligent weapon ever created.
Right. And then on top of it too, and he also said, and plus we can't just let you put $3 billion of vibranium in the ground.
Well, he also says that not all of us have the ability to bring our dead lover back online.
Right.
And she's like, what? Excuse me, back to life.
Back to life, right. So he figured that she had skills, abilities, whatever, the power to do.
Yeah, and she says something else about him being hers or something. Like, he's like, that's just it. He's not yours.
He's not yours, right. Right. She was like, she said something like, he's all I have left.
Yeah, she's like, that's just it. He's not yours.
Yeah. So now we see.
And then she breaks the glass. She gets pissed and breaks the glass and floats down. And a bunch of guys come in with guns, and he's like, back off.
He's like, whoa. Yeah. Let her through, let her, do whatever. So then she basically says goodbye.
Well, she walks up and she does her magic over his head, and she says, I can't feel you.
Right.
Which is a callback to what she said to him in the past is, I can feel you.
Right. Right. And it was one of those things that for me, I was like, oh, okay, she's definitely, the Vision is a soul. He is definitely a person, within this synthetic body. He was a synthezoid. He was more than just your average android or AI. He was much more than that. And so that was pretty cool. That was telling. And then she leaves.
She's crying and she leaves. And they show her get in the car and
drive away. And you're like, oh.
And then this is the point that you were going to get to earlier.
Right. Where Hayward told everybody that was working at the Sword Exit base, the mobile base they set up, that when they started to investigate the Hex, that she showed up and took Vision's body. Fucking false.
Yeah, to bring her lover back to life.
Right. That is not what happened. Hi, Preston. Hi, buddy. She didn't. She drove. Now we see this piece of paper.
There's an envelope on the.
Yeah. You see this piece of paper and envelope and stuff that's on the seat next to her in her red car, which I found to be interesting. And she drives to this small town in
Westview, New Jersey.
Westview, New Jersey. And as she's driving through, you see that this is a small town and it's probably suburban. It's kind of run down. It's not very run down, but you can see that maybe this town is a little sad. Maybe it's had its better days.
My question was, honestly, after seeing that town and the way things were, my question was, why did they pick there?
Right, me too. And I think maybe because it was out of the way, maybe it's not.
And that's Renee actually said, she said that no one would expect to see them there. to find them there.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I thought that would be a pretty intelligent thing as well. That, you know, just this random couple in this small town in New Jersey, you know, close enough to the big city that they're probably, you know, that they can get there if they have to, whatever. And she drives to this spot where it looks
as she's driving through town, you see
the characters.
You see Herb, you see Phil, I think it is, Mrs. Hart.
Yes.
The mailman whose name I don't remember, who's actually a pizza delivery guy. Right. The gazebo is all fenced off and looking like it's in disrepair. The pool club, the pool is filled with leaves and looks like it's not used. The gate's half open.
Right.
I mean, the town definitely looks like it has seen
better days at the very least. Right. Because I looked at it and I'm like, well, it's not completely run down, but it does look like it could definitely use an influx of maybe some new business or something. You know, it needs a like a factory, like the factory that employed half the town shut down or something. You know? And so she drives and she comes to this piece of land where
it's a little suburban neighborhood.
It's a suburban neighborhood where it looks like maybe a house had started to be built, but then got abandoned or something.
Yeah, and they'd been abandoned for a while because there's lots of weeds,
but it looked like they had started building like
there's
the structure for the home.
There's the foundation around the edges.
Right. And so you're like, all right, what's this? And then you see she opens the piece of paper and it said something, it had a heart on it, and it was like a place for us to grow old together.
Yeah.
Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, a place to grow old together.
And
it dash V.
Right. And then then she's standing in the middle of it, and you just see her, and I'm like, and I said to Stella, I go, oh, this is it. And you see her have her breakdown.
Yep.
You see potentially one of the most powerful people on the planet in the Marvel universe have a fucking breakdown, and she loses it. Rightfully so.
You see an explosion of her energy as it starts swirling around her, and she builds the house.
Yes.
And the building blocks are very reminiscent of all the stuff from House of M, where they're like puzzle pieces.
Right.
All
just kind of coming together. Right. Yep. Yeah. And you see, and then the energy just spreads outward.
Well, and then there's a second burst that then transforms the town into the 1950s.
It's all black and white. Right.
Yep. And then then they go back to the house, and now Wanda's writhing, and there's all sorts of red energy around her, and all of a sudden this yellow energy
comes out. Right. Exactly. And we see her create or recreate the Vision.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, that's what she did. She created him whole cloth. She didn't use the body. And
that's why when he came out, he was getting pulled back in because he's part of the hex.
Right, exactly.
And he was getting pulled back in like little pieces.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So I was just like, that's it. That was what she did. She recreated him and her memory of him, and that yellow energy is his power signature. I think that's
the Mind Stone.
That's the Mind Stone. I think she grabbed the energy because they've talked about, well, when the Infinity Stones were destroyed, that energy had to go somewhere. Where did that energy go? And maybe she coalesced it. She created it. She brought that energy back and used it to reassemble the soul and the spirit or whatever of the Vision. And that's what we got, man.
Yep. And the thing is that right then, everything's black and white, including Vision, except for her. She's in color.
She's in color.
And Vision's standing there looking at her, and then they cut away and they show like her step forward one step, and she's now black and white in a 50s outfit.
Right. And we're seeing the beginning, and that's where it started. That was the beginning of her.
Right. And Vision looks at her and he's like, Wanda, what do you think? Just stay in tonight? And they sit down on the couch.
And he clicks on the TV.
And then they pan back to Wanda standing behind in color again. and you hear, and then she starts looking around, and you can see that she's on a set.
Right.
And then you just hear this clapping like that, and you look, and the only person in the audience is Agatha.
Yeah,
and she's like, bravo, and goes like this and disappears.
And that's where she has figured out, she's like, she knows what she is now.
Yep.
She knows what Wanda is. And then so Wanda goes out, she leaves out of the set.
She hears the boys crying.
Crying.
And so she runs outside, and there's Agatha floating in the air with these two leashes.
Full on witch mode.
Yeah. Floating in the air, purple energy all around her, these purple lines going down to each of the boys around their throats and holding them up tight, and basically calling Wanda out.
Yeah. And she essentially, then she says, I know what you are. You're one of the dangerous beings we've heard about.
Yeah. She says, you have no idea how dangerous you are. You were supposed to be a myth.
Right.
Someone who can create things out of nothing.
Right.
So this is chaos magic.
Yes.
And that makes you a Scarlet Witch.
A Scarlet Witch, yeah.
And they went to credits.
Credits! And I was like, oh! Yeah, that hurt me. Because I was like, oh, because she's never used a code word. They
even hint at it earlier on when Hayward's like, does she have a code name? Something cute?
She's just Wanda.
And Jimmy's like, no, it's Wanda.
Yeah. And so they call her the Scarlet Witch. And I was just like, oh, it's so good. So we got to move on because we're pushing 2 hours, but we have
to talk about the mid-credit scene.
Couple last thoughts. So the credits roll and the credits are going on, and then we get into a mid-credit scene where Hayward
they're ready to move out.
Right. And now Hayward had talked about, like, they had tried to reassemble the Vision. They tried, but they couldn't get him to turn back on again, essentially. Well, until now.
Well, that's the thing. He didn't say that yet. He says, okay, it's about time. And they go inside. And he says, it's incredible. All we needed was power from the source. And then they show the drone, which has still got the residual scarlet energy on it.
Right.
And it's hooked up to this device that's pumping energy somewhere. And they pan over and you see white boots and they scan up and it's a white Vision.
Right.
Which
now
makes sense for cataract.
Correct. And the thing is what it was is that is reminiscent of basically a storyline in the Marvel comics from a long time, from 20 some odd years ago, where the Vision essentially, he tried to take over the world using computers and whatnot. And he had been compromised. Something had happened. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he himself and his operating system had been compromised. And it caused him to, like I said, to try and take over the world. And when that happened, the government came in after they stopped him, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't, whatever. The government captured him, essentially, and then disassembled him. And then they reassembled him. But what they had done is they had more or less wiped his memory, his mind engrams. He still had all the memories that he had of Vision, but he no longer had the emotions. He no longer the personality. His personality in the comic books was based largely on the brain engrams of Simon Williams, the Wonder Man.
And he refused to let them rescan his brain.
Exactly. He refused to let them. He was like, nope, not again. And in all, I mean, that was the thing. Over the years, the Vision and Wonder Man had kind of considered themselves kind of brothers, because they kind of were like a set of twin brothers now at this point. And but yeah, he decided, I don't want to do that again. And so instead, you have Vision still operating as a member of the Avengers, still operating as a superhero, but he didn't have the emotional connection to the memories anymore. He just was more of a machine. And that was where we started to see the first real schism between the Scarlet Witch and the Vision and their relationship. And I think my prediction of what we're going to see, is this is how we're going to get Vision back in the real world, is the White Vision is going to come into the Hex. There's going to be a confrontation between the White Vision and Wanda's Vision, so to speak, and she's going to end up shoving her Vision into the body, and basically shoving his soul back into it, into his rebuilt body. That's my prediction. I think that's what we're going to see, because I think there's still a great deal of, even though we all know Paul Bettany talks about how uncomfortable it can be to play the Vision. I think there's still a lot of things that they can do with him. And I think that's how we're going to get the Vision back from the dead.
And see, my thought was that we're still going to see Simon Williams, and that they're going to wind up scanning him, and that's going to become the new Vision personality. But your idea is also very plausible, I think.
I agree. It is very
because I still think Simon Williams is the person that is the one in witness protection that was in Westview.
I still want to know what that is or who that is. And
I still want to know who Ralph is.
Sure.
If there is a Ralph now, because that's the other thing is there really a Ralph?
I think that might very well have been just her attempt at, just being part of the funny and stuff.
Well, the other thing I want to know is, what is the book that Agatha has? Is that the Darkhold?
It's got to be the Darkhold. It can't be anything but the Darkhold, man.
Which was in Shield.
What's that?
It was in Shield.
When? It was in Shield. Oh, the show. Yeah.
Show Shield.
It was on the Agents of Shield. I remember that. Yeah. They tapped into it. I think they used it during the whole Ghost Rider.
Yes, they did.
Which is another untapped thing that they need to go back to. I'd say that's the other thing too. Like the whole things that they set up with Agents of Shield is genius. I think they need. There's talk now too of both Clark Gregg and the girl who played Daisy. I can't remember her name. Both coming back in different capacities in the MCU in the future.
Well, I mean, she could come back as Quake.
She could, absolutely. She was Quake. She is Quake. Yeah. So, there's a number of different, there's talk of both of them reappearing. So anyway, like I said, my theory is that's what we're going to see. The next episode is going to be a big deal. I thought we were going to see, I thought last episode was going to be the big confrontation, and that this episode would be like the cleanup episode. But I think we're going to see a lot of confrontation and cleanup in this episode. Now, my other main big question that was brought up to me was, how the fuck does Doctor Strange not already show up? Is he out of town? He's got to be busy.
That's the thing. If all of this magic has happened, and enough to bring Agatha there,
yes.
Why isn't Strange going? I mean, he's just the next state over.
Just the next, he's like an hour drive, or whatever. He's not far. So you'd think that he would be the first person to show up when all this magic gets tossed around. So my guess is that maybe Doc Strange is, occupied doing something. But they have said that Doctor Strange is supposed to show up in this episode, largely because, or in this series, largely because, Wanda is in his next movie. So now they still haven't.
This is supposed to tie directly into that, but right. I mean, the thing is that we're still over a year away from his movie.
Correct.
We got three or four more movies between now and then.
Right, and that's the other thing too. I mean, they've all even said that the next Spider-Man movie is actually going to be kind of a big Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and something else.
Well, yeah, because it's gonna be the whole multiverse.
Multiverse, but it was supposed to be like kind of a threequel between that movie and then another. I can't remember. There was another one in there maybe, but man, I tell you, overall the entire thing was so freaking cool. I can't tell you how much I've been really enjoying this show. I had a friend was posting something somebody hadn't watched it yet, and another friend was saying, wait until the next episode comes out so you can just binge the whole thing all at once. You're gonna want to. It's killing us, because I mean, this is the first time in a long time that I have watched a show and has been completely like engaged and excited and stressed out and whatever because I gotta wait for the next week. I gotta wait, And it's almost like I'm reminded of like when I was a kid or when I much younger watching like waiting for the next episode of Star Trek or X-Files or whatever.
Though, I love this. I love that they're not putting all of them out at once.
Yeah.
Because it gives us the chance to do this. Sit, speculate, talk about the show. That's what I don't like about shows that are put all out at once, because then you just binge them all and you're like, oh, I got nothing really to, okay, yeah, we can talk about what's happening, but you can't speculate about the show.
Right, exactly.
And that's one of the things that I truly miss about a lot of the old time TV stuff is that you had time to talk to people about it.
I agree.
Oh, hey, did you catch the show last week? Type of thing, That's what I liked about Game of Thrones. It gave us time to speculate about where they were going.
Yeah, same thing with Watchmen. Same thing with with a lot of the shows we've reviewed during the time on our show here. Well, it is getting late. Yep, exactly. Water cooler talk.
Yep.
It's we miss that kind of stuff, but it is getting late. Guys, be sure to check us out and all the places that you can download and stream quality podcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in, like I said, all the places you can find quality podcasting. Oh, crap. We can be at, you can find us at iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, radio.com, and of course, all the places that, and of course, nerdswithalcoholshow.com. You can stream and download all of our episodes there. Every 8 o'clock, or excuse me, God, my mouth. I don't know what's working. Every Tuesday.
You're trying to
every Tuesday night. I am. Every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock on Drinking Nerds, our Twitch channel. And then about 2 days or 3 days later, you'll see it on our YouTube channel, also known as Drinking Nerds.
Yeah, and you can follow us on most of the social medias. We're on Facebook, Nerds with Alcohol Show. We are on Twitter, Drinking Nerds, Instagram, Drinking Nerds. And we're also on Untapped, although I'm not on there as much as I should be. Just search for Drinking Nerds, send us a friend request, and we will get you added. Also, just to let you know, we are up to 36 followers on Twitch right now. So we need 14 more. We're over all the other stuff that we need. We just need to get 14 more followers to hit the next status on Twitch. And we're starting to get some good follows on YouTube as well. So that's cool.
At 50, we get a good like a bump or whatever, and stuff like that. So sorry. I just heard Stella and the dog, and sorry. Anyways, but yeah, guys, thanks for coming in. Thanks a
lot for hanging out with us, listening to us nerd out about a bunch of stuff. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell all your friends about us, and we'll make more. We've got we don't have a D&D game this Friday. That'll be next Friday.
Yep.
We will
probably be playing some Mech Warrior this Friday.
Right, and most probably next Monday a new talking Tavern Talk.
Yep, which is our D&D show that we've been having fun with. I did not do Sunday Morning Star Wars this week because it was my anniversary. I wasn't thinking about that when I was talking about it last week, but I will be back to that this weekend.
Awesome. All right, well, on that note.
All right, on that note, until next time.
Sláinte. That was a pretty good one.
That was all right. Yeah. All right, have a good week, everybody.
Good night.